information came direct from Meghan's ex-husband, Trevor Engelson, via an intermediary.
For years, Meghan Markle's rise from Hollywood actress to duchess has fascinated the world, but nothing stirs deeper curiosity than the shadows cast by her past. When whispers began resurfacing about her first marriage, attention quickly turned to Trevor Engelson, the man who knew her long before royalty. Now, shocking revelations from his side of the family have reignited a storm of speculation. Their rejection wasn't just emotional, it was rooted in unsettling experiences no one expected. So, what truly happened behind those closed doors? The secret that planted the first crack and before Trevor Engelson ever spoke publicly. Before he broke the silence he kept for almost 10 years, the people who loved him most already knew something was off. They didn't need explanations or interviews. They simply watched. They watched him give and give. His loyalty, his devotion, his second chances, his late-night patience, and all the softness of a man in love. But they also watched Meghan give far less than she received. To them, something in the emotional balance was wrong. The warmth wasn't equal. The respect wasn't mutual. The love wasn't growing in the same direction. Those closest to Trevor say the warning signs appeared long before the world ever noticed the cracks, while Trevor bent himself in every direction imaginable, adjusting, compromising, trying to hold the relationship steady. Meghan seemed to be moving toward a world where he did not quite belong. His family didn't step back because they disliked her. They didn't pull away out of envy or judgment. They stepped back because they were worried. They felt Trevor was investing his whole heart into someone who was quietly building a life that might not include him. It was as though the relationship sat on an unspoken truth, a truth waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The truth surfaced softly yet with stunning force. Years before Meghan Markle walked red carpets or entered royal halls, she sat face to face with Trevor and revealed something that shattered all the dreams he had built around their future. In a quiet, vulnerable moment, she confessed that she couldn't have children. It was a revelation that didn't just surprise him. It rewrote everything he thought their life together would become. For Trevor, those words didn't simply shift the plan. They erased the version of life he had pictured since the day he decided she was the woman he wanted to marry. But instead of challenging her or doubting her, he did what loving partners often do. He adapted. He didn't ask for explanations. He didn't question her sincerity. He swallowed the heartbreak and reshaped his dreams, believing that love required sacrifice. He told himself that a life without children was still a life filled with meaning as long as they faced it together. Trust, after all, was the foundation he thought they both stood on. But years later, when the news broke that Meghan and Prince Harry had welcomed not just one but 2 healthy children, that foundation cracked in a way he had never expected. Friends say Trevor wasn't filled with rage or bitterness. He wasn't the type to explode. Instead, what settled into him was something deeper: confusion, disbelief, and a kind of quiet heartbreak that doesn't need shouting to be felt. The truth he once accepted as unchangeable now looked like a story told to push him in a direction she wanted him to go. And in that moment, the love he had protected so fiercely began to feel like betrayal. Those who know Trevor say this revelation finally made sense of the uneasiness his family had sensed from the start. It explained why they had kept a careful distance, why something never felt steady, and why the relationship seemed slightly misaligned even in its happiest moments. They had witnessed the beginning of a fracture Trevor could not see, a subtle crack hidden beneath the surface. And that confession, the one he accepted so gently, became the first silent break in a long chain of breaks that ultimately brought the marriage to its end. Looking back, that moment wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a fight or an accusation. It was a quiet, invisible shift, the kind that feels small in the moment but grows and spreads until the entire relationship can no longer hold itself together. And in the end, that single confession became the echo that explained everything Trevor's family had sensed long before the world ever heard his side of the story. Was Meghan's rejection limited to the first crack, or were there other factors that contributed to her rejection? Let's find out. A marriage built on effort, but balanced by one heart. If the secret about the children planted the very first crack in their relationship, the way their marriage slowly came apart made that crack impossible to ignore. Those who knew Trevor say he was the kind of man who didn't express love with big speeches or dramatic gestures. His love language was effort, quiet, steady, dependable effort. He wasn't showy. but he was present. He didn't talk about commitment, he lived it. So when Meghan landed her role on Suits and moved to Toronto, Trevor didn't complain or try to hold her back. Instead, he supported her with a level of dedication many partners would struggle to match. He fit himself around her new life, like water poured into a shifting mold. He boarded flights at odd hours, crossed borders repeatedly, and found ways to squeeze visits into impossible schedules. He sent thoughtful care packages to remind her she wasn't alone. He checked on her between long, exhausting days on set. He even looked into relocating so they could avoid the ache of long distance altogether. Trevor didn't just cheer for her dreams, he pushed them forward with his own hands. But as he leaned in with love and effort, Meghan took a quiet step back. Her withdrawal wasn't explosive. There were no dramatic arguments or tearful confrontations. Instead, it was slow, almost invisible at first. It was in the unanswered calls, the delayed replies, the soft coolness in her voice. It was in the shift of her priorities, in the spaces where Trevor once stood that now felt strangely empty. The emotional distance grew like a shadow at sunset, subtle at first, then harder and harder to ignore. Friends noticed before Trevor did. Family sensed something changing. Even Trevor felt the coldness creeping in. Though he pushed the thought away, trying to believe it was just the strain of work, the distance, or the stress of fame. He loved her too much to imagine she might be drifting for real. What had once looked like a partnership, two people walking arm in arm toward the same future, began to resemble something else entirely. Trevor was doing the heavy lifting, carrying the weight of a marriage that no longer had two hands holding it up. Meanwhile, Meghan seemed to be stepping out of the relationship quietly, as though rehearsing a life without him long before she truly left. And when the end finally arrived, it did not come with shouting or closure or even a difficult conversation. It came with silence, a silence so final it felt like a door being shut, with no intention of ever reopening. Meghan did not ask to meet. She did not call. She did not even send a message explaining her feelings. Instead, she packed her wedding ring into an envelope and mailed it back to him. No note, no explanation. Just the ring, cold, heavy, and painfully symbolic. For Trevor, receiving that package didn't just end their marriage, it erased it. It was as if every memory, every sacrifice, every cross-country flight, every gesture of love had been swept away in an instant. The ring landing in the bottom of that mailbox was not just the end. It was confirmation of something much deeper. It confirmed what his family had feared from the beginning. They had sensed an imbalance, an emotional unevenness Trevor refused to see. To them, it always felt like he was pouring more into the relationship than he was receiving. They felt he was holding together something she had already stepped away from. And now, the silent return of the ring proved those instincts right. Long before the marriage officially ended, Meghan had checked out emotionally. Trevor had been fighting for something that, in her heart, had already faded. He had been clinging to a bond she had quietly let go of, long before the symbol of their vows hit the bottom of that box. In the end, it wasn't a fight that broke them. It wasn't betrayal or scandal. It was something far more painful, indifference. And that, more than anything, was what made the ending unforgettable and unforgivable. For Meghan to have checked out emotionally before the divorce, did she have a plan or strategy? Was her ex-husband aware of these plans? Let's delve into the details of the plan that rewrote destinies. The vision board, the perfume, and the plan that changed everything. Years rolled by, and Trevor lived them like a man trying to disappear into his own shadow. He didn't fight, he didn't complain, he didn't tell his side of the story. Instead, he worked, healed, and rebuilt himself quietly. For almost 10 years, he carried the weight of the past like a sealed box he refused to open. But what finally moved him to speak wasn't bitterness. It was a revelation, something so bizarre, so unexpected, that it changed everything he believed about his marriage. People close to him began to talk, softly at first, then more boldly. They told him about something Meghan had supposedly created long before Prince Harry ever entered her life. A vision board, a deliberate map of desires and goals, with Harry placed right at the center. And this wasn't a playful poster filled with magazine cutouts and dreamy ideas. According to those who saw it, it was focused, purposeful, less a collage and more a strategic plan. Meghan, they claimed, had studied the royal family in detail. She had outlined the path she wanted to follow long before that accidental blind date the world later celebrated as fate. The romance described to the public as spontaneous and magical suddenly looked, through Trevor's eyes, like something far more calculated. For Trevor, that revelation felt like the final puzzle piece snapping into place. The emotional distance during their marriage, the ring mailed back without a word, the abrupt shift toward new ambitions. It all aligned. In his heart, he realized he had not lost her to work or long-distance complications. He had simply reached the point in her story where his presence was no longer needed. But then came the detail that stunned him most. Insiders whispered that on the night Meghan met Prince Harry for the very first time, she wore Princess Diana's favorite perfume. It was a fragrance deeply tied to Harry's earliest memories, his mother's warmth, his childhood pain, and the grief that shaped his adulthood. The moment he recognized the scent, something emotional unlocked inside him. It wasn't just attraction, it felt like destiny calling. But to those in Meghan's inner circle, the gesture felt different, not manipulative in a loud or cruel way, not pushy, but precise, intentional, a quiet psychological spark designed to stir emotions too deep for Harry to ignore. Harry didn't fall only for Meghan that night. He fell for a moment built to touch the softest, most vulnerable parts of his heart. And for the first time, according to whispers from those close to him, Prince Harry was shaken by Trevor's side of the story. He had defended Meghan against the press, against his own family, even against the traditions of the monarchy. But Trevor wasn't a tabloid. He wasn't a critic. He was the man who knew Meghan before the fame, before the cameras, before the crown. Sources say Harry's reaction wasn't anger. It was doubt, confusion, a rare silence from a man who had spent years fighting every battle on Meghan's behalf. Instead of arguing, he pulled back. He retreated into himself, trying to reconcile the woman he loved with the version being revealed by someone who once loved her first. And in that quiet tension, a single sentence reportedly slipped from Harry's lips. Simple, soft, but powerful enough to shake the walls of their Montecito home. "Stop blaming the palace for everything." That line carried more weight than any argument. It hinted at cracks, small but spreading, between the story Harry had believed and the story he was now beginning to question. Not because of the tabloids, not because of the royal family, but because of the one voice that had stayed silent for years, until now. So, what did Trevor say about Meghan's relationship with Prince Harry? Did he seem shocked, or was he expecting it? Trevor's prediction of Meghan's marriage. When Meghan Markle first stepped into the global spotlight as Prince Harry's girlfriend, the world was stunned. But one person who wasn't surprised at all was her ex-husband, Trevor Engelson. According to reality TV star Bethany Frankel, Trevor was convinced from the very beginning that Meghan would one day walk down the aisle with the British prince. Not maybe, not possibly. He reportedly believed it with absolute certainty the moment he heard she was dating royalty. Frankel shared this surprising detail during her guest appearance on the Toast podcast with Claudia Oshry. She explained that years earlier, she had briefly dated Engelson, a Hollywood producer, and during that short period, the two talked casually about their past relationships. That was when Meghan's name first came up. Trevor didn't talk about Meghan with bitterness or anger, Frankel said. Instead, he simply mentioned her as his ex-wife, who had starred on a TV show called Suits. Frankel admitted she had never watched the show at the time and didn't even know who Meghan was. The name didn't stick out to her, at least not then. But a few months later, the whole world suddenly knew exactly who Meghan Markle was. Photographs began circulating online, showing Prince Harry walking hand in hand with a beautiful American actress. The news spread like wildfire. Meghan was everywhere. Front pages, gossip blogs, major headlines, and that's when something clicked in Frankel's mind. She grabbed her phone and sent Trevor a message with one simple question: "Is this your ex?" Trevor's response was immediate and blunt. That single word set off a wave of curiosity for Frankel. Was the woman now dating a British prince really the same woman Trevor had once been married to? How did he feel about it? Was he shocked, confused, proud, amused? So she pushed a little further. Now that Meghan was publicly linked to one of the most famous royals on the planet, Frankel asked him the question that anyone in her position would want to know. Do you think she's going to close? By close, she meant, do you think she's going to seal the deal, get engaged, marry him, and step into royal life? Trevor didn't hesitate. According to Frankel, he instantly replied with complete confidence. "Oh, she'll close. Not maybe, not we'll see. A firm, certain, she'll close." Frankel told the podcast hosts that Trevor didn't go into much more detail about why he felt so sure. She didn't share whether he said it with admiration, acceptance, or something else entirely, but the certainty in his voice stuck with her. It sounded as if he believed that once Meghan set her sights on something, she didn't back down until she achieved it. And as the world soon witnessed, Trevor's prediction came true. Less than 2 years after that private text exchange, Meghan Markle married Prince Harry in a fairy tale royal wedding watched by millions around the globe. It was the kind of moment most people can only dream of. Tiaras, tradition, fanfare, history, and the entire world looking on. Meghan had gone from actress to duchess, from Hollywood scripts to Buckingham Palace ceremonies. To Frankel, the whole thing felt almost surreal. She had gone from casually chatting with Trevor about a show she'd never heard of, to watching his ex-wife rise to become one of the most talked-about women in the world. And Trevor, in his quiet, matter-of-fact way, had seen it coming long before anyone else did. His prediction, "She'll close," now reads almost like a prophecy. It suggests he understood something about Meghan's determination, her charm, or her ability to step confidently into big, life-changing opportunities. Whether that came from knowing her personality deeply or simply trusting her ambition, Trevor believed that Meghan wouldn't let a chance like royal life slip through her fingers. And as history showed, he was absolutely right. What did the revelation of her ex-husband cost her? Was her marriage affected? Let's find out. The silence, the cancelled events, and the reckoning that has only begun. When Trevor's revelations began to spread across the internet like wildfire, something strange happened almost instantly. Meghan Markle seemed to disappear from the public eye. Her calendar, which had been packed with speeches, interviews, charity events, and polished appearances, suddenly became blank. Invitations were declined. Scheduled panels quietly dissolved. Planned questions and answer sessions evaporated without explanation. It was as if she slammed every door shut at the exact moment people were waiting to see her walk through them. The reason was obvious to everyone watching. She did not want to face the cameras. Not now. Not when she knew what the first question would be. Not when Trevor's voice, silent for years, was finally echoing louder than hers. But the public didn't view her sudden silence as strength. It didn't look like a smart strategy, and it certainly didn't feel like confidence. Instead, it began to carry the unmistakable scent of fear. As Meghan stepped back, the world took a step forward. Her critics, her fans, and even the neutral observers began re-watching her old interviews with a different mindset. Every tear, every dramatic pause, every emotional claim of mistreatment suddenly felt different. What once appeared raw and vulnerable started to look rehearsed. What once looked brave now seemed carefully crafted. People didn't just question her words, they questioned her intentions. Meanwhile, whispers from Trevor's side began to rise from quiet murmurs to full-blown warning bells. Those close to him claimed that the public had only heard a small piece of the story. They insisted that Trevor had been holding back, not out of fear, but out of respect, that the most damaging details were the ones he deliberately chose not to share. But now that Meghan's camp was allegedly trying to silence him, control him, or discredit him, Trevor might no longer feel any obligation to stay quiet. Talk of a memoir surfaced, not just any memoir, but one with receipts. One that could rewrite everything people thought they knew. Rumors swirled of a second interview, this time with documents, messages, timelines, and evidence attached. A story that could no longer be pushed aside as bitterness or exaggeration. The polished image Meghan had spent years shaping through carefully chosen words, glossy photos, and emotional storytelling has begun to show cracks. And what's most unsettling is that these cracks weren't created by royal insiders, tabloid journalists, or palace officials. They were created by the one person she probably believed would stay silent forever. Trevor Engelson, the man who knew her before the fame, before the titles, before the cameras, the man who watched the transformation firsthand, the man she left behind. Trevor has never been loud. He has never chased attention. He has never tried to ride the wave of her global name. His quiet life, far from the royal storm, showed he had no interest in revenge or spotlight. But sometimes the quietest voices carry the heaviest truth. And now the world is listening. Everyday people, commentators, and even former supporters wait with a kind of breathless curiosity. They watch as though a long line of dominoes has just been nudged, slow at first, then gaining speed. Because once the first truth leaks out, the rest rarely stay hidden. We are no longer looking at the end of a scandal. we are standing at the very beginning of something deeper, something more revealing, something much harder to control. This isn't just a story about a celebrity, a duchess, or a former actress. It is a story about image, truth, silence, and the people who finally decide they are done holding everything in. Meghan's silence, once her shield, has become a spotlight of its own. It raises more questions than it hides. It turns whispers into theories, and theories into headlines. The quiet around her no longer feels peaceful. It feels tense, charged, expectant. And the biggest question hovering above everything is the one she cannot script, redirect, or shut down. If Trevor has finally spoken, who might be next? Because if this really is the beginning of the reckoning, then the next voice might be even louder, and the next revelation might not be as gentle as the first. The story isn't closing, it's opening, and the world is watching every inch of it unfold. So, what do you think about Trevor's comments? Is Meghan likely to get out of this unscathed? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.